In this video, where to stay in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Whether you're a tourist visiting for 1 week, a digital nomad staying for 1 or 2 months, or an expat looking to relocate to Buenos Aires on a more permanent basis. In this video, we're going to break down the best neighborhoods in Buenos Aires for each type of person and explain exactly where you should stay to maximize your experience in the city. So here is Buenos Aires. This is a city of 16 million plus people, one of the largest cities in all of the Americas. And I think in this circular red area alone, there's about 3 million plus people. So it is a dense city. And in this video, we're going to basically break down the top 5 or 6 most popular neighborhoods where most international foreigner people do stay. So I want to start off downtown. So this is downtown Buenos Aires, just so you can kind of get a feel for what the downtown area is. And I wonder if I type in Centro Buenos Aires, will this kind of outline the center for me? Yeah, so it kind of says that this is the center, really anywhere within this general rectangle, kind of even on both sides of this highway. This is the downtown area of Buenos Aires, and this is one of the historic, oldest parts of the city. Keep in mind that Buenos Aires is 500 years old. So the first neighborhood that I want to show you guys is Puerto Madero. This is some of the most expensive real estate in Buenos Aires and some of the most expensive real estate in all of Latin America. Puerto Madero is going to be the best place to stay if you're a businessman visiting for a short-term trip, maybe if you're an ambassador, or even for some tourists or families that really have a high budget and they're looking for a high-class area. So what I'll do is I'll do a little street view here, and you can see there are some old buildings, but really it's a mix of a lot of new buildings, a lot of new construction. Puerto Madero is basically it's a semi-artificial barrier island. It's got some park access out here where you can go running and enjoy this little rocky beach. And yeah, so Puerto Madero is a place that, while it is family friendly, it's really only going to be for the most high end of families. This is some of the most expensive square footage in all of Argentina. And then right across from Puerto Madero, we have the downtown area. And in particular, I want to draw your attention to an area called San Telmo. So San Telmo is sort of a subsection of downtown. And if you look at the description here, you're going to see art galleries, bars, murals, rustic restaurants, and the famous Mercado San Telmo. So the San Telmo market, if we take a look at the market here, you're going to see you're going to get tons of food. You can get empanadas, pizza, beer, and then tons of different knickknacks, souvenirs, things you can bring home with you. It's a gigantic market where you'll really see the culture of Buenos Aires and Argentina on display. So this area of San Telmo, it's going to be very loud and it's going to be very densely packed, especially on weekends. And this is somewhere that maybe as a tourist, if you're staying for a couple days or a week, I'd recommend staying in San Telmo. If you're a tourist and you want to knock out all the downtown attractions, they have all the theaters, the museums, this other theater. There's the Ateneo, which is a theater that's been converted into a bookstore, and lots of people take selfies and Instagram photos here. So there's really lots to see in the downtown area. There's the famous pizzeria Guerin or Guerin, forget how you pronounce it. But this is the downtown area. And I think if you were a tourist staying for 2 or 3 days up to a week, I'd recommend staying in the downtown core. But if you're a digital nomad, I highly recommend not staying downtown. A couple reasons for this. It's going to be very loud. It's going to be very dense. It's a little bit dangerous at night. Not as dangerous as the United States, but you'll still see some unsavory characters here and there. And really, a lot of people work in the downtown. There are a lot of office buildings in this area. And remember, this is a 16 million plus person city. And a lot of these people are commuting into downtown to work. They're driving in, they're bicycling in, they're taking the subway in. And so really Monday to Friday during work hours, it's exceptionally busy here. And so for all these reasons, the car honking, I highly recommend not staying downtown unless it's short term. Obviously, Puerto Madero is a bit of an exception. It's a little bit quieter on this side. It's nice. It's a little bit more organized. The sidewalks are in better condition. It's quieter. You have access to this big park and stuff. But the downtown is very much concrete jungle. And like I said, if you want to just knock out all the attractions in walking distance, you could stay downtown. But for digital nomads, and certainly for long-term expats, you do not want to be downtown. Now, the next area I want to bring to your attention is Palermo. Palermo is essentially the gringo vortex zone, as we call it at My Latin Life. This is the area where most digital nomads will tell you that you should stay. This is the most popular area for international people to stay. It is on the more expensive side. It's not quite as expensive as Puerto Madero, so maybe you could say that this is the second most expensive area of the city. You can see that closer to the river, there's a whole lot of different parks. You're going to get access to all these different parks, and it's great. You can bring a coffee, walk your dog, whatever, and have great access to these parks. Palermo is a big area, so we're actually going to break it down into a couple different sub areas. So the most popular area to stay for digital nomads is this area called Palermo Soho. So Palermo Soho is roughly bordered by Bautista Justo up here, Avenida Cordoba on this side, Ortiz down the bottom, and then this street here that lines the park, Santa Fe. So this rectangle is basically Palermo Soho. And the beating heart of Palermo Soho is this plaza called Plaza Serrano. My double R sucks, but this is Plaza Serrano. And we'll even do a little street view here to check out what's going on in Plaza Serrano. So you got this small plaza area where you'll see kids kicking the soccer ball. It's even got a little area for kids. And it's basically surrounded by bars. So this is all bars, and effectively they're nightclubs as well because they'll be open until like 4 or 5 in the morning. But this whole plaza is surrounded by bars. So it's a great place to come if you want to enjoy the nightlife, but just make sure that if you're going to stay in this area, you don't want to stay anywhere in the immediate area of Plaza Serrano because it's going to be super loud. It's going to be thumping till 4 or 5 in the morning. So definitely don't stay on these 4 blocks surrounding the plaza. And even basically, you really don't want to be too close to this plaza. You might want to be within maybe 10 minutes walking distance. That's a good rule of thumb, but you just don't want to be too close. And then there's this other bigger park down in the corner called Plaza Inmigrantes de Armenia. Here there's basically like not like farmers markets, but there's a lot of posts or puestos where people are selling stuff. So all these little puestos surrounding the park, they'll be selling knickknacks, souvenirs, clothing, and there's lots of bars and restaurants in this area. So really this whole Palermo Soho area, it's going to be hipsterish. It's going to be nice restaurants, very walkable, beautiful tree-lined streets as well. Like it's very aesthetically pleasing. Maybe I didn't pick the best example here, but honestly, it's pretty aesthetically pleasing. Lots of art, lots of tall trees, definitely lots of Airbnbs in the area as well. Not so many hotels, but definitely lots of Airbnbs. And it's kind of a rite of passage to stay in Palermo Soho at least once. And speaking of rite of passages, also to go to Don Julio. So Don Julio Parrilla, this is one of the best steakhouses in Argentina. It's consistently rated one of the best steakhouses in the world. It's a lot more expensive than other steakhouses in Buenos Aires. You could honestly go to a local steakhouse in a local neighborhood and have just as good of a steak anywhere else. But People will ask you, did you go to Don Julio? So you got to do it at least once. Got to go to Don Julio, and appropriately, it is in Palermo Soho, the Gringo Vortex Zone. Okay, so that is Palermo Soho, and then on the other side, there's this area called Palermo Hollywood. So you can see it's another basically rectangular area, and it's divided by Bautista Justo. And this is a really wide street. It's effectively a highway, and so it does feel very separate. So whether you're in Palermo Soho or in Palermo Hollywood, honestly does make a difference. It is walkable, like it's really only a quarter mile away, but you will feel separated from the other side. So whichever side you stay on, just keep in mind you're going to spend the majority of your time on one of these particular sides. And Palermo Hollywood is a little bit less in demand because it's just a little bit less chic, and probably a little bit less expensive as well, right? A little bit rougher, but not that rough. And then there's all these nightclubs here along Humboldt. So just keep in mind that if you were to stay on the Palermo Hollywood side, try to stay a little bit in it. Don't stay too close to the main street because there's obviously all the noise from the main street. And then there's a whole lot of nightclubs kind of on these first two streets. So it's going to be pretty loud. So if you were going to stay in Palermo Hollywood, I'd recommend probably staying up in this corner so that you're near Plaza Mafalda, which is a nice local park. And you can see there's kind of a connection of a couple different local parks in this area. Or you could stay down in this corner where you're going to be a little bit closer to all the big parks, okay? And we can take a look here, see what this looks like. So, high density, but great walkable area. Kind of looks familiar, or reminds me of Mexico City a lot in some ways. But yeah, so that is Palermo Hollywood. And then in Palermo, you also have a couple pockets in here that are close to the larger parks. And this area of Palermo could be a little bit more family friendly. You have a lot of density, you have a lot of buildings, it's going to be a little bit quieter. There's not as many bars on this side of things, and you're going to have more direct access to the parks. So you could look at this pocket of the neighborhood, or you could look at this pocket as well of the neighborhood. We'll do some more street view here. So you can see there's obviously tons of supply, high density, these sort of like 6-7 story buildings. So lots of different options here. And there's this area called Palermo Chico, which is one of the more expensive and prestigious areas of the city. And actually, if you look here, it says tranquilo and prestigious, celebrities, athletes, diplomats, millionaires, Tudor mansions, big apartments, world-class restaurants. And again, you're going to get direct access to all of these parks here. So if we take a look at some of the streets here, you do have lots of different apartment buildings. But if you went on some of the quieter streets, you're also going to see some really cool mansion type buildings as well. Let's see if we can find some Buenos Aires mansions here. Look at this. So almost looks like Paris. Pretty cool, right? So that's Palermo Chico. If you want a high-end area and you don't want to stay in Puerto Madero, then Palermo Chico is one of the other most high-end neighborhoods that you could take a look at. And then kind of bordering Palermo Chico is this area called Recoleta. Recoleta is another larger area. And the reason I talked about downtown first and then skipped over Palermo and then I come to Recoleta is that so you can kind of understand the dynamic of how the beating heart of Buenos Aires is the downtown, but the beating heart of the Gringo International Vortex Zone is up here in Palermo. And then you have this place called Recoleta, which is kind of in the middle. So from Recoleta, you'll have easy access to Palermo, but you'll also have easy access to downtown. There is the famous Recoleta Cemetery here. Honestly, you'll probably only ever visit it once, but it is a pretty major tourist attraction. Take a look at this. So, considered one of the most beautiful cemeteries in the Americas, but yeah, honestly, you'll only ever go there once. But then there's more stuff in Recoleta too. You have Bellas Artes Museum, you have the Biblioteca Nacional, which is the largest library in all of Argentina, and you have access to even more parks here. So you could stay kind of closer to the parks, and it's going to be a good area to stay. Definitely quieter, less hipsterish than Palermo, but overall a pretty good area to stay. All right, moving on from Recoleta, I wanted to point out this other area called Via Crespo. So Via Crespo is kind of like the cheaper alternative to Palermo. You can see it's really quite close to Palermo, and if you were on this eastern side of Via Crespo, you're really quite close walking distance to Plaza Serrano. So Via Crespo is really an option if you're looking for a slightly more authentic experience. The restaurants are going to be cheaper here, the cafes are going to be cheaper here, the bars are going to be cheaper here, and there's definitely tons of bars and amenities to be had. I would say the downside of Via Crespo is it's a little bit less green, it's a little bit more urban jungle-ish, and so to combat that, you could sort of stay in this southern pocket that's close to Parque Centenario. So Parque Centenario, again, great place to go for a walk. It's got a little lake in here and beautiful park. So if you stayed in this pocket, this would be a pretty good bet. And Via Crespo overall is going to be a lot cheaper than Palermo. It doesn't have the same brand name, so it kind of commands less per square foot. So I think honestly, if you're looking to invest or buy an apartment in Buenos Aires, Via Crespo is an area where you might be able to find some deals and find some high yields, because you'll probably get yields pretty close to Palermo without those Palermo prices. So honestly, for digital nomads looking for more of a budget option for 1 to 3 months, Via Crespo can be a great alternative to Palermo. Okay, and then the next main area that I really want to show you guys is Belgrano. So Belgrano is going to be more residential, still urban jungle-ish, but you can see it goes all the way out to the river here. And again, there's tons of parks that you can enjoy, and you can even get a place right up here in front of the park and have direct access to this park in some of the neighborhoods near the park. So Belgrano is a pretty big area. It even has a little Barrio Chino, which is a Chinatown in Belgrano. But don't let that fool you. This is actually one of the most expensive areas of the city. It's very family friendly. There's mansions here, there's embassies here, and to prove it to you, what if we typed in the word embajada? So you can see there are some embassies up here in this Belgrano area, and then tons of embassies down in the Palermo Chico area, right? And so where the embassies are kind of gives you an idea of where there's going to be big estates and colonial mansions and that kind of thing. So I think Belgrano is a great option for expats, and particularly expat families. It's going to be more local as well. It's going to be very family friendly. So I think people looking to stay long term in Argentina and in Buenos Aires, Belgrano is one of the top places that you want to look at and have your eye on. Okay? So with that, let's kind of get to a summary of what we've learned so far in this video. If you're a tourist looking to stay for 2 to 3 days, up to a week, you kind of have two options. You probably either want to stay in Palermo Soho, or you want to stay downtown. If you want to party, you probably want to stay in Palermo. If you want to take in all the museums and the history and the theaters and all that type of stuff, you might want to stay downtown. If you're a digital nomad looking to stay for 1 to 3 months, you could look at Palermo and all the different areas of Palermo, or you could look at Via Crespo for a slightly cheaper alternative. And those would be my top 2 areas for digital nomads. Recoleta could work as well. If you are a family, you could look at staying in Puerto Madero. I'd probably only stay here if you have a reason to be downtown, like you need proximity to a particular office. But honestly, it's a pretty good area because, you know, more than the majority of this island is nature and it's an ecological reserve. So it's also going to be more expensive, as I said. So for families, you could look at staying in Puerto Madero, or you could look at staying in Belgrano, which I think is very family friendly as well, Or if you have a higher budget, you could look at staying in Palermo Chico, or even some of these pockets of Palermo and Recoleta that are closer to the parks. Okay, so hopefully in this video we shed some light on the best 5 or 6 neighborhoods in Buenos Aires and which neighborhoods are going to appeal most to certain types of people. As we close up the video, wanted to mention if you want direct help from My Latin Life, you can book a call with us. There's going to be a link in the description where you can book a 60-minute consulting call with My Latin Life. We can help you relocate to Buenos Aires. We can help you plan your trip. And we are an immigration firm. We can help you get residency in Argentina as well. So we can get you residency. We can put you on a path to citizenship. Remember, it's only 2 years of residency to get citizenship in Buenos Aires, and then in Argentina rather, and then you're going to be able to get that Argentine passport. So book a call with us, join our newsletter, and check out some of our other city guides and videos to learn more about Argentina and Latin America at large.